Hi there. I am excited, per the usual, to introduce the guest today, a longtime friend and colleague of mine, Lindsey Benton out of Denver, Colorado. And I'm really excited for you to learn from Lindsey and her story because it's been pretty amazing. I met Lindsey in early 2014, right as she was getting ready to launch full-time into real estate. And within a year, she not only had served 100 clients. Well, in a little over a year, she can tell you her numbers better than me. But she was crushing it immediately. And she did so because she executed very simple yet specific systems consistently, which is the key to success for any of us. And within a year and a half or so of starting full-time in real estate, she then launched her own brokerage, built up an amazing team over the last 3 years, got married a week after she launched her brokerage, has since had a child, an awesome little boy who's a year old. And basically, I'm inspired by Lindsey because from the very minute she went full-time into real estate, she executed on the consistent activities that get results. But in the meantime, she's also been living an amazing life. And so she's an inspiration. She's a great leader, a great friend, and I'm really excited to introduce her. So I'll go ahead and let you take the floor, Lindsey, and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your start in real estate and how you got to where you are today. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm equally excited. So as Erin said, I'm Lindsey Benton with Live Laugh Denver Real Estate Group. And I really started in real estate technically when I bought my first home and I was 21 years old. So I'd moved to Denver from the Midwest, fell in love immediately, rented for a year, and then bought at the age of 21. I don't know if I was stupid or lucky or a combination of both, but it's turned out really well for me. And I fell in love with homeownership and everything that goes along with it at that moment. Fast forward a lot of years, and I was turning 30, and I got my real estate license. I was ready to turn a passion of mine into a career. The whole time, my whole other professional career was in sales and marketing. So my background, sales and marketing, I've always been a salesperson. My mom would argue that I've been a salesperson since I was born. But I was moved out here to do advertising sales for the Denver Post and Rocky Mountain News. And then I moved over to the client side and was doing marketing, and then ended up getting into real estate and taking my passion for homeownership that way. So here it is, 2012, I get my real estate license and I'm doing it as a side hustle. I do not advise that in hindsight, but that's what I was doing. And so I did it as a side hustle for a year and a half. And then here we are in early 14, and I was having a lot of success helping friends and family make their real estate goals a reality. And that's when I met Erin. And she introduced me to a coaching program that we followed together for a while. But in doing so, I ended up moving forward and launching my own brokerage in 2015. And here we are.
Yes. And I want to back up a little bit because one of the things that I like about your approach to doing real estate, which I feel the same way about anybody in our industry that does this, but the fact that you bought real estate early and have converted to rental properties and have created passive income through real estate, how many properties do you own today?
We have 4, including our primary.
Okay. And I actually think that's pretty amazing. I think most real estate agents that also practice real estate in that way, in other words, use real estate as a vehicle to create wealth for yourself and create that passive income and that security blanket for the future, I think it's a really good asset because you're able to then share that story with your clients and educate them on the power of real estate investing in general, not just buying and selling and living in a house for a little while, but buying and holding and how that's changed your life and your families. Because it's been the same for me. I mean, I always say that the reason we live where we live is because of holding on to the properties we used to live in and that passive income ultimately creating a level of financial freedom to be able to make the choices to live where we want to live, right?
Absolutely. I think, I always joke when I'm at a listing presentation, I always talk to those sellers like, okay, have you evaluated if this financially is the right decision for you to sell? And I'll joke, I may be the worst real estate salesperson out there as far as that goes, but I really want people to feel confident about the decision they're making. Some people are invested in different ways, and so it doesn't make sense for them to hold on to their real estate, or they have different investments elsewhere, or they should sell their primary, buy a new primary, and then invest differently. but thinking about it from a holistic approach. And we buy and hold, so we don't sell properties. But that doesn't mean doesn't make sense for other people to do that. So I think that's been a big differentiator for me in the industry, is that I do that. I do buy and hold. I have built great wealth for myself, my husband, our family through real estate and just buying one little house at a time. But I also encourage my clients to do the same thing. And for some people, it doesn't make sense. But for those that do, we really try and help them leverage one property to get the next.
Well, it's good though. I mean, it may or may not work for everybody, but at least for those who want to go down that path, you as their agent are able to lead by example and demonstrate the potential. And it's huge. I mean, it's a huge piece of what we do and what I know that you and I are both individually passionate about, with, educating the client on the whole financial picture, not just the short-term end product of having a house to live in, essentially. So one of the other things I want to touch upon, because I love this, is when you talked about being part-time in real estate and how you wouldn't recommend that to anybody. I could not agree more. I literally just had a conversation with someone who's thinking about going from a salary job to a loan officer on the side. And I said to her, honestly, I wouldn't recommend it, because you've got to be all in to get the results that you're seeking, right? I mean, what would you say about that if you were talking to somebody today or talking to your former self?
Yeah. There's a lot of people who have their licenses and don't practice real estate. And so there's a place for that. I mean, there's property managers that have to have their real estate license and they don't do transactions. But I think it's really important, if you're getting your real estate license and you want to be a realtor, that you're going all in, because otherwise you're not able to serve the clients as well as you need to be able to. I mean, there are so many hours in a day and there are so many things to do in those hours. There's different trainings you need to go to. And a lot of people will be like, oh, well, you just show houses on nights and weekends. That's not true. So much of our business is during the business day as well as then on nights and weekends. So really, to be able to do justice to your clients, but also to the industry, you need to be doing it full time. It takes that level of dedication and knowledge to be able to do it full time and do it right. I mean, what are other part-time jobs that you've had? I mean, when you're growing up, you might like part-time work at a restaurant or part-time work at landscaping was one of my jobs, but you're not helping somebody invest in the biggest investment of their life or sell the biggest piece of asset they have. I mean, that takes a full-time, well-trained person.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, there is huge potential in this business for people who treat it like a business. And there's so many people in our industry that don't fully comprehend what that means. I would love to touch a little bit touch upon the numbers that you hit in such a short amount of time. And I know that I talk about numbers because I'm thinking about business for the sake of business, but I also know that you and I approach our business based on relationships. So I don't want to be talking about relationships that we've developed as numbers. But I do think that any real estate agent listening would want to know how you can get to closing 100 transactions very quickly. And for you, it was all about consistency and systems. So tell the listeners a little bit about what you implemented right out of the gates when you did go full-time in real estate.
Yeah. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that Erin and I met originally through a transaction, and then she guided me through a coaching program. If you don't have a client relationship management tool yet, definitely get one, a CRM as we call it. So I'm with Buffini and Company, still am. And the whole basis of that is lead generating through the people you know and through your sphere of influence. And so it was literally picking up the phone and calling the people I knew and asking them to introduce me to their friends, introduce me to their plumbers, their electricians. A lot of what Erin talks about in her book is what I was doing at the time. And really investing in those relationships, pulling friends aside and say, hey, I'm in real estate now. What can I do to earn your business or earn your referrals? Do you feel confident referring real estate business to me? And having those conversations and turning that into a sales generating program. So I followed it. I followed it to a T. As I mentioned, I have a sales and marketing background. So sales numbers, you need to call this many people a day, write this many personal notes a day. That was easy for me to hit. It was a non-negotiable. If I didn't feel good, if I had other fun plans that afternoon or was going to be traveling that week, it didn't matter. I won the week every week for years straight. And by the end of my by the end of 2015, so my first year that was full time, I had already served 100 clients. That's that stat. So I had already served 100 clients, and they were all friends and friends of friends and people in my sphere. And I think a lot of people get into this business and they're like, well, I don't know a lot of people, or feel limited by that. And I just tell them to dig in. I mean, no one can do you better than you can do you. And so be genuine with yourself and join organizations and join groups of people who have similar interests to you. So for me, I go to the gym, so I have my gym groups, and then I am really focused on community service. So I have a Rotary Club, and I invest my time and energy into that, as well as some money. And in return, I've made great connections in my community, and those are the kinds of referral partners. And then the other thing is you just be good to people and expect to always give more than you receive, and it happens.
So I'm interested in the fearlessness that you demonstrate in your business, because I'm sure that you, as a team leader and also somebody who actively networks with other agents through mastermind groups and things like that, which I think is really powerful, by the way. So if anyone's listening and they're not networking with other agents, you're missing the boat. There's so much that we can learn from one another, and in so many ways we can support one another and have an abundance mindset in this business. But along the way, if you're being honest, there's a lot of people that are going to be transparent about the challenges that they experience in getting from 0 to 60 in this business. And it's not always as easy to be so bold and fearless as you've been. So what kind of advice do you give to folks who, essentially just feel like they're bothering friends and family, or they're afraid to make those calls because they don't know how to make the call in a way that feels value adding as opposed to self-serving? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in my role now, I actually serve 24 clients directly a year, but then I also coach agents, and that's something that comes up a lot. I don't want to be super salesy. I don't come from a salesy background. There's a difference between sales and customer service. And a lot of people who get into this business are really good at customer service but don't want to be a salesperson. And so I remind them that you're doing it to serve these people. So if they think about, like, who's going to take better care of your friend or your family member than you? No one's going to care more. So it doesn't matter if you have the most experience. It doesn't matter if the other agent had 200 listings last year and you didn't. You're going to take better care of them, and you have the resources to do it. And so I really focus on and try and get the agents to focus on it being a point of, I'm going to take the best care of you possible. I'm going to be able to maximize your profits and minimize your stress. So really thinking about how it's going to benefit the person that they're selling to, because I think, and there's those quote marks on selling, because then it's not really selling. Then it's just you providing a service and offering that to them and letting them know that you're available to help them.
So digging even a little bit deeper, do you ever give advice to your team members or colleagues that are struggling with just getting into activity, picking up the phone and doing the bare minimum essentials that are so simple and so theoretically? I mean, I look at this business as very scientific. When you see your volume is down and you go and you turn on the faucet, meaning you get to work and you do the activity, the results always match the efforts. It may take 30, 60, 90 days, but it works. So do you have any, for lack of a better word, scripting or anything that you help your team members with so that they can overcome that fear and feel like they're changing the conversation and they have a reason to call and give value? Or is it pretty generic, just get on the phone and talk to people?
I mean, I'm kind of a tough love type. So it's like, I don't know, do you want to do this business or not? Because if you want to do it, you're going to go through this process. And if you don't, then you won't. And I mean, I do have those tough conversations. That said, I will ask them a lot of open-ended questions to help them get to a script that's comfortable for them. So why do you think that you're going to be able to serve people better than anyone else? And so I kind of help them get to a place where they're going to be confident giving their own elevator speech. So I don't think it's a one script fits all industry. And so I really focus on helping them figure out, talking about what they're most comfortable with. And when you're getting into this industry, it's a good time to use the word we. So somebody's going out on a newer, they're a newer agent, they're going out on a listing presentation, and they're getting pushed about how much experience you have, and use we. I'm going to be helping them through the process. So
that's awesome. And I've also been really impressed by the culture that you've built within your team. So talk to us a little bit about how you came to the team you're at now. What does it look like? How do you guys operate? And ultimately a little bit about the culture of your team, because I think it's really special.
Well, thank you. I do too. I genuinely love all of the agents that work at Live Laugh, and we're all a little different. We are all women, it turns out. So when I say she and her, it's accurate. It's just us girls. But everyone's a little bit different, and everyone grows their business differently. I think our culture is really based on the family model, and not to the point, because a lot of times we give family like the easy way out. It's the opposite of that. We hold each other at such a high level, and expect for the others to hold us at that level too. So similar to how we grow our business, everyone works by referral in the office. Frankly, if you want coached on how to cold call for real estate business, I've never done it. I've cold called other industries in my life, but I've never cold called for real estate business. I work 100% by referral, and our team has grown 100% by referral. So it's meeting those personalities, figuring out who's going to be the right fit. I launched Live Laugh Denver with the intention of it being a boutique brokerage, and we're 100% committed to it staying that way as well. There may be a time where it makes sense for us to change directions with the business. I think it's important in real estate to always be ready to pivot. However, right now we're maxing at 10 agents. I currently have myself plus 5. So with that in mind, and then we have an admin role as well. So 7 total on the team. But with that small of a team, it's so important that we all gel together. So there's a lot of agents that I love and have become great friends of mine, because that collaboration is so important, and we're all in this together to help our clients. But that doesn't mean that they're the right fit for Live Laugh. So in being super selective like that, the culture we've created is that of a sisterhood, of us helping one another. So people are encouraged to take vacations, and it's like, okay, Beth's going to cover for Christina's vacation, so that when Beth goes off and gets married, Christina's covering for her vacation. And we do care enough about each other in this intimate of an environment where we then that care is translated onto the client. So it's a unique culture. I don't think it's easy to achieve or replicate. I feel very fortunate that it's something we've been able to create, but it does take 100% buy-in from everybody. And I think the biggest thing is that we do all share the drive to help people. And so if that is your main goal, is to help people make their real estate goals a reality, then those kinds of needs and that level of service is going to translate even if they're not your client.
So I feel like I remember when you were first launching your business, you were talking about this vision you had of vacation buddies. So is that what came to fruition? Do they have their buddy? Does everybody have a buddy?
I did have that vision, Erin. I really did. That goes back to my corporate Denver Post, Rocky Mountain News days. I mean, we could literally take vacation. It was also 2004, so the technology wasn't there like it is now, where our entire business is in our phone. So they're not assigned technically, but yeah, we do have full vacation protocols that create space for agents to take a true vacation. There's one person in our company that's probably the worst at doing that, and it's me. So I tell them oftentimes to practice what I preach and not what I do. But it's something I'm always working on too. I mean, taking that space and letting your mind breathe is oftentimes when you come up with the best ideas and best ways to serve your clients and all of that. So I think vacation is super important.
I'm just laughing because one day my team said to me, a couple people on the team said to me, you know what, you need a day off. Why don't you just shut off tomorrow? It's Friday. You shut off. Everything's going to be under control. I had a family coming into town. It was just like I was in a little bit of chaos, and they could tell I was just a little bit maxed. So I was like, you know what? You're right. I should do that. And then at 10 o'clock in the morning, I sent an email to someone on my team about some idea I have. And it was my brand new assistant. She had been with me about a month. And it was so hilarious because the next thing I know, I get a text message from her that says, stop reading email. You're supposed to be taking a day off. It was amazing. I was like, that's why I hired you and how I know that you are a perfect fit for this family of unicorns.
Yes. So, I know. It's so hard. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but it's so necessary.
I know. I want everybody to have vacation, but I have such a hard time because when I do shut off theoretically, or I unplug, all these ideas come streaming, and then I feel I have to share those ideas immediately. And It's probably
Yep.
not actually helpful. I should just put them in a notebook and have a team meeting. But
Right.
all right. So coming back to the team. So just in case anybody is listening in the Denver metro area and looking for a new home, I'm just curious, what kind of systems and support have you built out to support the agents that you do have on your team? Is it structured? Do you have a weekly sales meeting, or do you have a weekly, how do you coach them? What does it look like?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, you don't just launch a brokerage because it sounds like fun. It's a ton of work. And so when I was going to launch it, I really had some big objectives in mind. And I wanted to, this is a profession where you can make really good money. And so I really wanted to create a very professional environment that I thought had been missing at other places, and also just in transactions with other agents. And so part of that professionalism, in my opinion, was a lot of communication throughout. So we have standardized some communication systems. Nothing is automated. I think automated can take a little bit away from the experience. So while we have templates, so the rule is that I say is if I've written the email twice or 3 times, then we might as well have a template for it. And so the template helps prompt the agents to know what to cover when. When you've been doing these transactions one after another, and you have all this great experience, which makes you an amazing agent, it can also make you just skim over the details. Well, buyer or seller is not going through this all day, every day. So it's really important that they're feeling in touch with their transaction as well. So I find that the templates help us serve our clients better, but also more consistently. As I've mentioned, and as Erin knows, I'm a bit of a control freak. And so helping control the amount of communication that we're providing was really important for me as I turned my lead generation into kind of a tribe that serves their clients similar to how I serve my clients. The other thing that we offer at Live Laugh is marketing. So we do have, that's my background, marketing, sales, both of them. And so the brand itself is something I like to say my first baby. It's something that I love very much and want to keep consistent. So we provide the signs for people. And I just want it to feel simple. I mean, most realtors that are really good at what they do want to be with their people. They want to be out talking with their people. So the less they were worried about spending money on signs or how do I get this marketing together or that marketing together, it's completely automated. So that is a system that we execute internally. Okay, this listing is going live this date. Cool. We're going to order photos then. We're going to, order the sign then, and then we're going to knock out the flyer, and all that is taken care of for the agents. And I just think that it's an aces in places approach, and that really has helped the agents be successful and continue to serve their clients better.
Well, I think that's really important what you touched upon there with providing the templates, because one of the things that I always joke about just how many mistakes I made transitioning from one-man band to branch manager, team leader, theoretically boss, which is not a word I really use to describe myself, although sometimes they refer to me that way, which always makes me laugh because I think of them as my friends. And I'm like, I'm not your boss, you're my friend. But it's funny because as we were building out the team and we were putting people into roles and training them, I definitely failed early on with the scripting, meaning that we've been in the business for a long time, and we've said things so many times, and we explain things in a certain way to make sure that our clients understand and feel educated and feel supported throughout the process. And when you plug somebody else into that role and they come across the same conversation or the same question, and they've never been given a template for the best way to describe it that isn't too wordy, it's not too complicated, it's clear, it's concise, but it's also thorough. And so it was funny because it wasn't until honestly a year ago that I spent a 4-hour plane ride going through every scenario I could possibly think of, explaining the difference between FHA and conventional, pros and cons, explaining jumbo loans and guidelines. And I went through and I just wrote it all down. And it's so much smarter to do it as you go. But if you are in a position where you have a real estate business and you're thinking of bringing on help, highly recommend that you start recording what you're doing now, saving those emails, saving templates, the way you explain things, because you want to make sure that if someone's representing you, that the client feels the same, that they're getting the same level of expertise as if they were talking to you, right? You want to feel the same.
Yep.
And you've got a bunch of individuals on your team. Obviously we all do, and everybody's different. So everybody's going to give everything their own flavor, but you want everyone to feel the same working with the brand of Live Laugh Denver, right? So that's the idea, is like, let's give you a framework to work within and then make it your own.
Exactly. It's kind of like an outline for each step of the way. And we are all independent producing agents. So as I mentioned, I produce 24 transactions a year. It usually ends up being a little bit higher than that because I'm just addicted to helping people. And I get super excited about a search or something. And I'm like, never mind, I'll just take care of this. This will be great. But every agent has their own goal that produces. We have one administrative assistant. Her title is operations manager, and she's running the back end of all the transactions. But other than that, it's not this hierarchy. We're not a top-heavy team or a bottom-heavy team, and we're very much independent businesses, all under the Live Laugh Denver umbrella. So, you know, I think you asked earlier about bringing people on, and I am always open to bringing on new agents that seem like they would be a good fit. The biggest thing that I look for is somebody who, to speak to the independent part, does work well autonomously. I mean, being able to find the answers yourself. I love like complex problems and helping find like unique solutions. But if you ask me 4 times about what the appraisal part of the contract means, I will lose it, because that is your job. You should know the contract. You are a realtor. So those are the kinds of things that may be better. Those agents may just be a better fit at a different brokerage. So,
well, what about your experience of having brought on both new and experienced agents onto your team? Because I'm pretty sure you've done both, right? So
yeah,
I know a lot of people that would say with that experience, because I also have done both. And ironically, the people I brought on with no experience have been the ones that have been the lifers on our team. I don't know why, but my coach would tell me that I should be always hiring experienced people, because the time it takes to train is, you know, it takes you away from growing your business or whatever. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you kind of just, if you're the right fit, experience or no experience, we're going to go for it and I'm willing to train you? Or are you kind of done with training from the ground up?
So I am not taking on new agents right now, personally, that I'm mentoring. However, I am encouraging my agents to put themselves in a mentor role as well. So if they're out and about meeting a potential buyer's agent for themselves, or kind of fleshing out their business as well, I want them to feel like they can build their own business the way they want to build it. So I believe we're having a newbie come on who's male. Watch out, we're having a boy. And he will be coming on under one of my experienced agents. So I think, though, to your original question of bringing on experience versus newbies, I think experience can come from a lot of different places. So I think, you know, Christina Ray, who was Rookie of the Year last year for DMAR, and that was huge for her and huge for us as a brokerage. She just did such a wonderful job. And she was it was her first full year doing real estate. And as a realtor, it was her first full year. So she had done 6 months. She started in June. So she had 6 months and then her first full year. And she did 22 transactions. And she killed it. She did an amazing job and took great care of her clients and did it all by referral. That said, she had 10 years of property management experience. So she had been professionally problem solving and dealing with similar challenges for 10 years. So I think you can have experience outside of the industry that are applicable. And I think being able to be a leader, I think restaurant experience, I mean, I know you worked in restaurants too, yeah. Like it applies to everything in life. So I think that you can get experience here and there. And getting people to change their ways, I think, is harder than training them how to do your ways.
Awesome. I love that. Well, just speaking a little bit more specifically, you know, if someone's listening and they hear that, wow, Rookie of the Year, 22 transactions in their first year, or wow, look at what you've done, Lindsey, since launching full-time into real estate only 4 years ago and how you've accomplished so much. Is there anything that you can share in terms of your actual schedule or something that you've watched Christina do, that consistency, that schedule, the commitment to the activities? I know we kind of glaze over, you know, it's calls, notes, and Popeyes, which if you've done Buffini and Company, which is an amazing real estate coaching company, then you know that system. But if you haven't, do you have a formula that you've seen that works, like a number of prospecting calls, a number of notes, or do you think it just varies based on your personality?
Well, if you're a Buffiniite, you know about the Popeyes part. Popeyes aren't big for me. I think in-person meetings are super important, but my formula is 25 calls a week, 10 personal notes a week. It's not that much. Pick up your phone, get in touch with your people, find out how you can help them. Send out notes. There's birthdays you can celebrate. There's just notes, thanks for coffee. It was so great to see you. I mean, send out notes. It helps you stand out. 25 and 10, if you do that and you make that contact, and then you also leverage your CRM to serve your existing clients who are either actively looking, considering selling, or under contract, then you're going to continue to grow your business by referral. 25 and 10, not that hard of numbers to hit, period.
So when you talk about those calls, I ran across something with a coaching client of mine recently who was tracking his activity, tracking his calls, and then sending me the report. And the report showed that his phone calls were, this was on the lending side, was taking a loan application or talking to somebody about their rates. And I said, that's not, in my opinion, that's not part of the 25 calls. That's not prospecting. That's your reactive. You're going to have a lot more than 25 phone calls a week because you're dealing with inbound referrals, follow-up, et cetera. That's not your outbound sales. Do you agree? It's 25 prospecting calls for the sake of prospecting mixed in with all your other reactive stuff, correct?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 25 outbound calls. And everyone tracks it differently, even within the office. And I don't care. Just make your touches. I mean, some people, like, I categorize in-person appointments as my pop buys, but I don't do the, like, cheesy, punny pop buys. It's just not a fit for my personality. Do I bring a bottle of champagne when people in my sphere get engaged? Absolutely. Call the pop buy, whatever you want to call it. But my point is to be in touch with and be in contact with people, with 25 people a week. So, and not just having to do with the transaction.
Okay. And then last question is, how do you handle with so many agents and your goal, which I also really like the fact that you keep it super specific. You're going to do 24 transactions a year, which is a very healthy income, as well as support and coach your team members, as well as be a member of your community, be a mom, be a wife. I mean, I like the fact that you've got it really clearly defined what a successful business and life looks like. And I think that's really important in our industry. A lot of people, all they want is more and more and more and more numbers in spite of what they're sacrificing either in their relationships or their health or whatever that may be. So I just think you do a really good job of keeping, you know, your working out as a priority, your family is a priority, your team is a priority. And I think that it's really hard to keep that level of balance. But I guess my question that I'm coming around to after just, you know, spewing love for Lindsey here is how do you determine who gets the leads when you might get, you could potentially be closing 40 or 50 a year and you're trying to keep it to 24. What do you do then? How do you dole them out?
Yeah, so I think that's a really hard part of growing the business. One, as far as setting parameters, I am a quantitative person. So when I was pregnant, it was 5 times a week. Now I get to the gym 3 times a week. Things shift, right? But in the same light, if you always want more, if the goal is more, then there's never enough. And so if you just always want to keep doing more and more and more, then there's never going to be enough. You're going to run yourself ragged. And so what I encourage my agents to do is pick out what their income goal is and then look back into it. And that's something that the coaching system helps you with too is, and I know you coach your clients this way too. It's like, what's your income goal? And then what's it going to take for us to get there? And so once you've evaluated that, then you have that number. I've helped other friends that aren't even on my team be like, no, like more isn't always better. So with that, I may generate 45, 50 leads a year. What do I do? And then I think a lot of agents who are kind of hitting this like high and they're doing great and then they have more business than they can handle. And so instead of getting help, they turn off that faucet and they're not then generating more leads. And then that's how you get the highs and lows. So what I always go down to and how I give out leads and assign leads and how I sleep better at night is knowing I can do 24 transactions a year and take really good care of them. Once I get over that, that's when between my own transactions and coaching agents and running the business, it's the client's going to sacrifice. And so I dole out leads the same way. If a person's looking in a certain area, that may be a better fit for Emily. So I'm going to assign it to Emily. If this person wants to look and be under contract in the next 30 days, but I know that Emily has a vacation for 2 weeks planned, then I'm going to go ahead and assign that to Christina. So it's always going to come from how to serve the clients best. And that's what always makes me feel confident is I know myself well enough to know when I have time to take on new clients and when I don't. And if I don't, and I am then sharing them with one of my agents, I feel really confident that they're going to receive the level of service that they deserve. Does that answer your question, or did I just ramble a bunch too?
No, 100%. Do you have any verbiage that you use when you're making that transition, that sort of that introduction, I guess?
Yeah. So again, I use the we a lot. So there's always, we're going to help you. And then I will like jokingly, but be very honest when saying like, you know, Emily is going to take better care of you than I could right now. And so I'm transparent with clients. And this is why she's going to be the best fit for you. And then I also say that we partner up within our brokerage. We partner up to make sure that clients have the access they need to the fast moving market. And so I think when they think about it logistically, that it does make sense. From the consumer side, and I'm still a resource for them and available over the phone. I just might not necessarily be the one showing them the houses.
So then after that, if that person was previously a client of yours or in your sphere, do they now become someone that Emily follows up with theoretically, and then would that any referrals that come from that go to Emily? Do you guys, I mean, I just think these are questions that swirl around in people's head because, you know, a lot of people go from one man band for a very long time before they ever get help.
Mm-hmm.
I call that surviving success, where you're doing well financially, but you're not necessarily doing well inside. In some way or another, something is suffering, or everything starts to suffer. Your quality of service starts to go down as your volume goes up. Your health goes down, whatever the case may be. And I know that a lot of people struggle with that process of, well, you know, wanting to hold on to every bit. And so do you just let that happen organically? Like whoever that client were to call or refer, you just kind of roll with it?
Yeah, to some degree, it's with the client, how the client acts, right? And it depends like what level of referral. Is it one of my good friends that they're helping? Then, hey, we're going to just keep them in my sphere and I'm going to keep working them. But if it's a good friend's referral and I don't know the person that well, then Emily, take it and run with it. And what we do is we have direct conversations. People are like, money's an awkward talk. No, it's not. Money is awkward talk after the fact. As long as you're talking about it before the fact, it's not awkward. Sure. And it's direct. Those direct conversations are necessary. And so we have the same with leads as well. And the biggest thing is to make sure that they don't get, slip through the cracks. But we also don't want them getting double marketing. So we definitely talk about, okay, are you taking this one moving forward or am I?
That's awesome. Well, I am really glad that you came on the show today. I think that anybody listening could have learned a lot about just how to run a successful business and treat it like a business. I've watched you from right out of the gates up until today just be so successful in really what we've talked about so many times, keep it simple, stupid. You know, you just keep it simple, and that simplicity gets you results. And then the systems you've put in place create balance. And I just think that it's really inspiring to see. And I'm really impressed with all you've done. And I'm excited to see what the next 4 years bring and where you're headed with everything. So I can't wait to have you on the podcast again in the future and see just where things have gone. If you stopped at 10 agents or all of a sudden you've got, all these people, you never know. So, you're right. You got to adapt. You're either adapting or you're dying in this market or in this industry, I should say. So thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And it's always good to catch up with you. And I always leave fired up and energized. So thanks for being a great friend and inspiration.
Back at you, sister. It's been a fun ride and I'm excited to see what happens for both of us next. Who knows?
All right. Well, have an awesome rest of your day. And thanks everyone for listening. Oh, and how can they get in contact with you, Lindsey, if somebody wants to reach out to you?
For sure. My cell is 720-234-0989. And then you can also catch us online at livelaughdenver.com. And a lot of people get confused, like live, laugh, love. No. Just remember that you don't need love if you have Denver. That was what the single girl in me said. So livelaughdenver.com, and it's Lindsey at. So look forward to hearing from you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.